I thank the gentleman from Louisiana. Ms. Neely, I know you wanted to comment just a minute ago. I just wanted to see if I could get you to, within maybe 2 or 3 minutes, so I can go to another subject, explain a little bit of the great work that your organization has been doing. I think you're one of the true experts here and one of the heroes in exposing what has been going on in this administration to target parents. On September 29th, 2021, the National School Board Association sends a letter to President Biden equating parents to domestic terrorism. Scott Smith was one of those people. I invited him to be my guest at the State of the Union. He was trying to defend his daughter to a school board. And then he suddenly becomes the poster father for, quote, domestic terrorism. The superintendent at Loudoun County has been fired. The Commonwealth attorney on the case has been removed. On October 4th, after that September 29th memo, the Attorney General put out a memo. And I know that the gentlelady is familiar with it. On October 20th, and the FBI Assistant Director of Counterterrorism sent an email referencing the October 4th Garland directive, and then established the threat tag, domestic terrorism, which the Judiciary Committee ranking member just blithely just sweeps aside. It would be not concerning at all for an American to be have a threat tag associated with them as domestic terrorist. This year, on January 11th, 2022, you told officers he was writing a letter to provide information to the White House from a request from Secretary Cardona. I want you to explain that. And on February 14th, 2022, NSBA leadership knew of DOJ memo before its release. Can you walk through all of your great work through the Freedom of Information Act to establish these facts that we are now relying upon to understand the dangers of this administration?
Through the Freedom of Information Act request that we received back from the NSBA board members in their districts, 2 of the board members, Christy Sweat from the Salt Lake City School District, was corresponding with Marnie Maldonado from, I believe, Washington State. And she speculated that Secretary Cardona had been the impetus for that letter. I know that this chair, this committee has requested documents from the Department of Education and the Department of Justice, which have not yet been turned over to them by either department. And so we are unable to prove the veracity of that. But that is something that, again, an executive committee member of the NSBA asserted, and I think is something that the American people deserve answers on. The fact that Mary C. Wall, who is a senior advisor in the Domestic Policy Council of the White House, was intimately involved in this, maintains her job to this day, and is, I believe, a leader in the COVID-19 response team, has not yet been held accountable for this. No one who was involved in the genesis of this memo has ever been called to account for this. And so we demand answers on that. I think we deserve to know answers to that, how our tax dollars were weaponized against us as American citizens. This is a betrayal of us as Americans.
Is there any doubt in your mind that there was collusion between the National School Board Association and the White House and the Department of Justice to target parents and coordinate the threat tag of domestic terrorism in light of the engagement in parents and school boards like Scott Smith?
There's no question in my mind whatsoever. This had been in the works for several weeks before. There was also evidence that the National Association of Secondary School Principals, they released a statement on September 16th, 2021, calling for federal intervention. The American Association of School Superintendents also put out a statement, although they, in NSBA documents that were later released in May 2022, declined to request federal intervention. It feels very much like there was an effort afoot by a number of outside organizations to gin up support for a pretextual investigation by the federal government.
So moving on to another subject in my minute and a half that I have left, I've heard a lot of colleagues on the other side of the aisle talking about book bans and accusing people in Florida, particularly Governor DeSantis and the people of Duval County, Florida, saying they want to ban books. Well, let me just say this. I hope they're successful in banning a number of books. The question is, which are those books? Are those books, for example, Genderqueer, a memoir, that book, or This Book is Gay? In that book, there are all sorts of depictions with body parts and male body parts. I can't even put on the screen the stuff that is in this book, Genderqueer, where there's 2 men engaged in a sexual position. Another page where I can flip to where there's 2 men engaged in oral sex. Another picture here in which there are any number of ridiculous graphic pictures that are being put in front of our kids in schools. Now, my question for this entire panel is, do you believe that parents have a right to know whether this stuff is in their schools, in the libraries, or being pushed or promoted by teachers in their schools? I would like a yes or no answer from each member of the panel. Start with you, Ms. Neely, and work down.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes, parents have a right to know.
Parents have a right to know. Well, that's good to know. I would like to submit these for the record without objection to the chairman. I would also like to submit for the record an article called Facts About Library Books in the Duval County Public Schools, which makes very clear that there are no books being banned about Rosa Parks or Roberto Clemente, that in fact there was a process for reviewing the books, that these books have been put on the shelves, left on the shelves. There are 13 books about Rosa Parks on average in every elementary school in Duval County. Our colleagues on the other side of the aisle are lying about it. The facts are here, and I'll submit this to the record, and I yield back.
Very good.